pretty
Operator,
woman.
information,
Please.
yeah.
Long distance information. Give me Memphis, Tennessee. Guess what? What are we going to talk about, Mailman?
Hey, I think we're going to talk about the telephone there.
Ding-a-lings?
Yeah.
Ding-a-ling.
Oh,
Hear them
my
ring.
ding-a-ling. Oh, that's a different.
Wait a minute. Cut. I don't think kids today could survive if they didn't have their cell phones or whatever they call them these days.
It's amazing.
It's like
The age you see, kids with expensive.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
It's like a lifeline to them. Like if you unplugged them, they would just die because they couldn't get oxygen.
Yeah.
And even the kids that don't have cell phones, I can leave mine laying around at the house or something. They'll grab it in a heartbeat.
You ain't kidding. Because I know there's games on there.
But I've got
They
it
can take
locked, so
pictures.
they can't be doing crap on mine. So.
What's your early memories of telephones? What do you remember? Did you always have a phone growing up?
I guess as long as I can remember, there probably might have been a time when we didn't. But I think the main thing I remember, there was one phone,
In the house.
and it wasn't on the wall. It was on a desk.
That's right.
And it was black.
Rotary dial.
It had a rotary dial on it, and you had the cord from the phone to the headset was fairly short, so you had to kind of sit right there beside.
That's
Remember they
right,
used to have a phone desk?
That's right.
Yeah.
And you had room to put your phone book into the little
Right, underneath there.
Underneath there, yeah.
And so
They're like end tables.
And now I don't remember when you had to dial 0 for an operator. I do remember that all the phone numbers in Arcadia started with Walnut, W-A.
Yeah.
Why
Walnut.
Walnut? I don't know.
W-A.
In
yeah.
Columbus, Ohio, it was capital
C-A.
Yeah.
Well, it was capital here, but
Wal-
it doesn't matter if it's capital or not
Walnut
because you
here.
didn't capitalize on
But you
it.
did dial the 0 if you wanted the operator,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and she would come on.
And there was also, and then they came into, there was party lines. So you had to pick
Right.
up the phone and see if anybody else was on there.
Mm-hmm.
Because what was about 8 or 9 people?
At least. Different families up and down the road.
And you knew who all was on there.
Oh, yeah.
And
Some people wouldn't
usually-
get off of it.
Usually within your neighborhood. And then also it got to the point where instead of having to dial 0 for an operator, you could direct dial. And that was something.
Well, we had arrived when we did that.
One, and then area code, and then the number. And it was cheaper, I think, than going through the operator assist.
Right. And you waited till later in the evening to make long-distance phone calls because it was cheaper.
Right, exactly.
7 or 8 o'clock.
The times
something like that.
changed. I guess the daytime was for business folk to be on there.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to keep the lines clear.
And you could reverse the charges, and you could call the
Call
operator and say,
collect.
I'd like to make a collect call to Joe Blow or whatever, and they would call and say, will you accept the charges? And they'd
No.
say, who? I never heard of that guy. I'll tell you a trick I used to do when I was dating this girl in Arcadia. If I was in town, of course, nobody had cell phones then. If I wanted to call her, I'd go to there used to be a phone booth in that big parking lot behind the Pink Building downtown. There was a phone booth right there where those cactuses were recently they had taken out. Used to be a regular phone booth. Went there, and I would dial her number, and I would dial her number, and she would answer it, but she couldn't hear me because I didn't put any money in there. And she would say, "Is it you? Is it this one? Is that one?" Then we'd hit yes. I would pull down the receiver and click it one time, and she'd say, "What's the number?" And I would do almost like Morse code. I would click out the number, whatever phone booth I was at,
Wow.
and she would call that phone booth and for free.
Wow. Yeah.
That was
That's
cheating.
pretty loud.
I probably owe Ma Bell a bunch of dimes. But
I remember years ago, there was a kid at the University of South Florida, and he had perfect pitch. And he learned and taught himself how to open up the lines on the phone so he could make
Seriously?
phone calls by. And he'd make the sound.
Sounded just like
they each had their own distinctive. Or then they each
Talking about the
had
push button.
right.
Push button phones.
Yeah, they each had their own distinctive
That's right.
sounds, and so he had figured out how to make those sounds,
Wow.
and he could open up the lines without dialing them, and he started doing it for his friends, and I think he got in trouble for it.
America's Got Talent. I can
Yeah.
see him on the stage doing it. It's like a genius.
Yeah, and even to be able to figure out you can do that, and then to have the perfect pitch to be able to do it, and to memorize
That's
those
unreal.
numbers and all.
That's unreal.
My mother moved into her house, her last house she lived in 1966 when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And she had a black phone on the wall. That's the only
Oh,
phone
that
we
was
had.
fancy.
But it had a
fancy.
great big long cord, and you could reach that thing. Would reach clear across the living room. I mean,
You go to the kitchen,
kitchen.
while you're cooking. And,
it was in the kitchen, and the kitchen and dining room was together, so you could go clear to the other side of the dining room.
You ever had one come unplugged and come sailing at you?
whack you upside the head.
But it was a rotary, and that was the same phone. It was 1966, and she left the house. We took her away from her house in 2009.
Same phone.
And it was the same phone there, all those years.
And it still worked, rotary dial?
Rotary dial.
Serious?
Yeah.
And then they got those phones that were streamlined. Remember those? They were flat.
They're flat,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you dialed on the back side or the front side
Of the phone.
of the receiver.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, you're a big time when you go on that.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You could set a
And
child today in front of a rotary phone and they'd be lost. They could not make a phone call if the house was on fire. They couldn't call 911.
And do you remember that most of them were pastel colors?
They were.
Yeah.
They
Some were
like
kind
a
of
light
garish.
green or pink.
Some
or,
were bright. I bought a bright orange one time.
yellows and all kind of weird colors.
I didn't own my own phone and my own cell phone until 2010.
Really?
Whose did you own? You
Well,
owned someone.
I always worked for
Who's
a
the phone
company
snatcher?
that provided me one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I retired, I said, "Oh, I got to get my own phone now."
Wow. We come a long way, but going back to party lines, you'd pick it up, somebody would be talking, and you put it down, pick it back up again, and finally say, "Are you through talking?" Or some people would grab the receiver and just
Start clicking
boom,
it.
boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
click it down a few times to try to get them.
Or did you ever listen to the conversation and then all of a sudden there's a silence and just say, "Is somebody listening?"
Of course
Yeah.
we did.
Hang up the phone.
I know that's
because
you.
you're breathing hard.
I recognize your dog barking in the background. That's you. I know that's you.
Hey, little brother.
Yeah.
That's right. I was an old lady that lived down the road from us. I won't call her name, but her and my granny
Man,
weren't good friends at
those
all,
were
and
the
they
days,
did
weren't
some of
they?
that back and forth.
Those were the days.
Somebody called me up at the house one day and accused me of using vulgar language on the phone. And first thing I'm thinking of is, well, why were you sitting there listening to me? And
Oh,
the
this is
second
during party line days?
Yeah. And the second thing I was thinking, I don't know what you call vulgar language.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything that I considered to be vulgar. I mean, it would probably be something that you could say on the TV nowadays. I mean, it wasn't
Sure.
any like real
Wasn't super nasty.
bad language.
Wow.
I don't know what it would have been her business anyhow if I was sitting there telling off people, really.
Wow.
Some old biddies didn't have much.
Old biddies.
I think some of them sat around there. And if you were sitting close to the phone, you could hear that little click that somebody else was on their line. You'd hear a little, and I think some of them old biddies listen.
Okay. Oh,
And
yeah.
they'd hear that and they'd say,
course.
there's some, got one on the line.
That's right. Like fishing. You got a nibble.
Hey, when Andy Griffith would make a phone call, who's the first lady he'd talk to?
Sarah, give me the barbershop. Let me talk. I can call
Give me
Floyd.
Helen. yeah.
Get Floyd on the line
Floyd.
here. But
Yeah, we've come a long way since then. And then we went to cell phones that were mounted into vehicles.
big old
My
cell
first-
phones.
Yeah, first one I ever had was mounted in a vehicle.
Yeah.
And then I got a bag phone.
Well, I've heard of
cell
those. I never
phone.
had one.
And you could carry around with you. And it was like a little briefcase almost. And then I remember a friend of mine got a handheld cell phone.
Ooh, he had arrived.
And it looked like two bricks stacked on top of each other. And it was heavy.
Probably weighed 3 or 4 pounds.
Oh, it did. It had an antenna sticking out the top. It had like a huge antenna sticking
But
out.
that was state of the art at the time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was pretty fancy.
And I think it'd last a couple hours before the battery went dead.
Oh,
And
my
you couldn't
goodness.
get any reception whatsoever. I mean, it was terrible reception.
But you had to have it. Was a status thing at one time, too.
And probably cost more than what the finest cell phones today cost.
And one time you had to have a beeper that went along with your cell phone so you knew when to call.
That's right. It would call you. You would get beeped and know who to just give you the number.
Yeah.
But it was pretty trusting to answer the phone back then. You didn't know who it was. They say that's the equivalent today of picking up a hitchhiker.
We
You
used
just
to,
don't know what's
when we
gonna
used our beepers, we'd have little signals afterward, like 911, hurry up and call me. But anyhow,
We'll be back.
we got to go buy some cell phones.